Welcome to Tech This Way.
Hey, thanks for coming to Tech This Way.
Oh, it's a pleasure always to meet you.
Yeah, so Michael from MoneyTree. I think we met first time almost 4 or 5 years ago.
Easily 5 years ago, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you were even at that point working with, collaborating with Maybank already.
Yes, we have been working alongside with Maybank since 2010.
Yeah, even longer, right? So the purpose for today is really what I try to do on this program is to really to understand more about the founders themselves. Right? How your own interesting journey must have been to land where it is today.
Okay.
Right? And then we go a little bit about what MoneyTree does and then what the plans are.
Sure.
So I guess you can go as far back as you want about, your own journey.
Oh, okay. I think, the most...
Oh, sorry, before we start.
Sure.
Do you want a drink? Let me just get you some water.
If I could, water, yeah.
Just water?
Yes. No, nothing. Thank you. Well, this has got to be the coolest interview, man, my friend. We get to do anything we want, huh?
Sorry. Okay, so you can go as far back as you want in terms of your own experiences.
I think the first significant story or event in my life would go back to when I was 15. And at that time, my classmate, who was my partner at the time, passed me a book from his dad, which he had read, and he passed it to me. It was Napoleon Hill's book, Laws of Success.
Okay.
Right? And
that's interesting reading for a 15-year-old.
Yeah, because the dad was an insurance group sales manager.
Okay.
Right. So the dad had like a library of these books to, dish out to all his insurance agents. And what the dad wanted to do was the dad wanted to give the son, like a head start in motivation and stuff. So this boy, sitting next to me is hyper all the time. And he said, hey, you got to read this book. I mean, it's a real thick book, right? So I decided, okay, if this guy says it's good and he's hyper like crazy, let's just read this, right?
Yeah.
So I read the book.
Sorry, this is a book for adults, right? This is not
It's an adult.
Okay.
It's a thick book. I mean, it's like, it's like a holy book of some kind. You got to see this book anyway. It's a real thick
I'll
book.
take it up.
Yeah. So I read through that book. I don't know how long it took me. But inside there, why that book became really big or popular was because it gave you the mindset, the secrets to how you want to look at things, your approach, and that slowly changed my approach to things. It's about, when you're faced with any calamity or any problem, it's how you look at it and your response to it creates a different result altogether, right? So at 15 years old, and they had this exercise, if I remember it clearly, where they ask you to have a clear plan, a clear purpose for the rest of your life, right?
Sorry, which school was this? Where were you from?
I was from LaSalle PJ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just down the road.
So what I did was I said, okay, 15 years old, you're in school, they tell you to write down your ambition, cheater, and all this stuff, right? I mean, so when I had to write this down, it was really interesting because I said, okay, this guy is preaching about no limits. You can do whatever you want, you can achieve as far as you want. The same stuff you hear in motivation,
Even
but
now,
this one, he seems to methodically put it down to steps, right? So I wrote this master plan or whatever they called it at the time. And I kept it with me because the guy says you got to file this properly somewhere where you can see this and go back to it. So I was 15 and I wrote that. And I thought to myself, okay, the first thing you want to try and do in school is you want to try and get active in school, clubs or whatever, and see if you can hold positions and do that.
Okay.
So in school, I guess, if you mix around with people and they kind of accept you, they would vote you in the positions. And so I had some of that. And when I was leaving school, because I don't come from a rich family, so my dad said, look, you want to try for local university. I mean, it was not very within our reach that I would study abroad.
Go overseas,
from day one. I knew that. No issues with that, right? So after Form 5 was Form 6.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about it was that that book, I think maybe looking back, gave me sufficient confidence that if you believe anything is possible, you just got to take the steps and slowly it becomes a reality. That was the pitch I got from the book, right? So for Form 5 exam, SPM and all that, I told myself, okay, if I just study enough, I get through, and next step is Form 6, right?
Yeah.
My results was just all right. And then I got into Form 6 and I took it semi-seriously because half the time I got a bunch of good friends, good guys, whom most I still see today. And we had just treated school as a nice place to meet before we do the next part of our day, right?
Yeah.
And we all got through our Form 6. I got to local U, as my dad had wanted. And I always realized that no matter what you do, I think you just need to know that you've got a plan, a game plan for this. And my game plan was simple at that time. I thought, okay, I'll do a degree. I mean, I also got accepted in Singapore at the time, but very long story short. When I got to Singapore first, I thought it was really cool being in another country, in the university. I spent 3 weeks maximum at NUS.
Okay.
This is an embarrassing story to tell because people listening to this, they're going to think I'm an idiot. Anyway, so what happened was I saw the timetable. It was pretty packed. At the same time, on my 3rd week in NUS, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
On my 3rd week in NUS, I get a phone call from my dad back home. I was in Singapore. And he said, hey, you have a letter from Malaysian U. You want to see it? I said, tell you what, Dad, just open it and read it to me. So I got accepted into UKM, University Kebangsaan. And I was thinking to myself, hey, at that time, what was very popular, you probably remember this, a lot of guys who were going overseas were doing double degrees, right?
Yeah.
And according to I found out later, I tried to do a double degree in Malaysia because what happened was, I said, okay, I want to try and do a double degree. Not possible in Singapore. So I thought maybe I'll try in Malaysia. So I came back, took a bus back to Malaysia.
Sorry, this is while technically you are at NUS.
Yeah, I'm still an NUS student. So I went back home, went to UKM to register officially as a student, to get my schedule, etc.
Okay.
And then I went to see the registrar and said, how do I register for a 2nd degree?
Right.
Because you're thinking...
You were kind of fixated with that double degree thing.
Yeah, because you got friends who were doing it and they were overseas, and I said, come on, whatever they can do, we can do, right? And then the guy told me, if I remember correctly, mengikut Akta University College, whatever, 1969 or whatever it was, 1 person, 1 space.
Right.
Right? Because otherwise you deprive another guy. So I said, I want to break this. So I said, okay, let me go back and ask my dad. I wanted to do a private college. I got economics in UKM. I wanted to do a private college, external computer science degree.
Okay.
While doing my economics, but I had to ask my dad because I was going to go private university, right? Private college. So I asked my dad. My dad said, okay, we'll make do. You go ahead. Now, remember, I'm still a student in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
So I told myself, if I get a chance to do private college computer science while I'm doing my economics in UKM, I would drop Singapore.
Right.
So
what were you doing at NUS at the time?
NUS, I had social science, Bachelor of Arts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was I went to a college, local college, and they said, the schedule is quite flexible. You can do your computer science. What you have to do is you have to do your diploma, then higher diploma, and then flip over to a degree. It's going to take 3 years. We do night classes. Yeah. So I thought, okay, that's cool. So I said, okay, let me now see if my dad's okay with that. My dad said he could pay for it, but I was fixated on the idea that he would pay 1 year. So I promised him, you pay the first year. 2nd year, by hook or by crook, I'm going to find a way to finance this.
To finance yourself,
Right.
right.
That was the thought, the intention, the determination, right? So as it would, I just left off Singapore, wrote a letter to say thank you, but, no thank you.
Right.
And I continued in UKM, which had it had a lot of space on my schedule. I mean, there was enough time for me to do a lot of stuff.
Right. And this is for, a full degree.
Full degree
at
in
UKM.
economics, yeah.
It had
It had enough space because it's not far from home, as you know, Bangi, right? So not far from home. I convinced my mother. I said, hey, listen, could I like get the car on certain days? And she said, okay. So what happened was I would go for my degree by day, right? Drive back to PJ on certain nights, not every night, for my computer science
Night classes.
night classes. And I would drive back to Bangi the same night after I finish. Right?
Okay.
So as
Oh,
ridiculous
so
as
you were staying in Bangi?
I was staying in Kajang.
In Kajang. Okay,
Yeah,
so in
yeah,
between lah. Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was that first year, each semester I was doing something like 17 or 18 papers, right?
Okay.
Don't ask me to do that again. I'll never do that again, right? 17, 18 papers. So I finished my first year. I got my computer science diploma while I'm still doing my degree.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to keep the promise to my dad, right? So what I did was I went to a private college to apply for any job I could get. And I was fortunate enough to get a job as a tutor for computer science. In other words, while they're teaching all the other students, they would have this like tutorial classes, and I would be there to make sure these guys know how to do this.
Because you had just done your first year already.
Because I had done my first year, right? And it was very cool because at that time, wow, this is way back in, okay, let's not tell people the age, but this is really way back when $800 a month was big money.
Right.
And they were paying me $800 a month to do just 10 hours a week.
Wow.
That's heavy money.
That's pretty good.
That's big money. Okay, to me that was like superstar money, right?
It's like 2 hours a day kind of thing.
Yes. Remember, I then continued my second year. This happened in my second year, right? So I had my university degree. I had night classes.
Yeah.
In between, I was doing the 2 hours.
And the tutorial was in the evening too.
Yeah. So I would time it that I had the flexibility to time it. So I would time it just before my night classes. So I come back to PJ, do tutorial, and then very convenient, right? So what happened was that gave me a lot of flexibility. So with that 800, but I can't remember net how much after they deduct all the stuff. I remember I had enough to tell my mom, okay, listen, so what I'll do is I'll pay for the monthly installment for the car, right? Which those days it was really, small money, right? I mean, like, you pay like $200 per month or whatever it was. I can't remember. So I did that. So because I did that, she felt that I qualified to get the car more often.
Right.
So I got the car more often. And that continued through my second year. Now, in the middle of my second year, okay, so I'm doing the university degree in UKM. I'm doing computer science at night.
In the evening, yeah.
And I've got this work that I do, in the college to tutoring. Now, for purposes of not incriminating the college, I'm just going to tell the story without saying much more. So what happened back then was a lecturer for the first year students left because she was intimidated by the students. Yeah, she cried and she just walked off midway in the semester.
What kind of gangster college is this? Yeah,
I can't name it because then
I have a very good idea.
Okay. So what happened was they came to me knowing that I'm a second year economics student, right?
Oh, okay, the economics
student, right? They said, could you fill in for half a semester?
So the teacher that left was doing econs?
Yeah. Okay. It's an economic. So I'm saying, now I'm that bad a student that I was thinking to myself, there's no way on earth I'm going to be able to teach a first year student because I can't even remember what I did last week, right? So I was the guy who's offering me the job, the owner, was looking at me and I was actually thinking really hard, right? Could I do this thing, right? And he thought I was thinking whether or not I'll be paid extra. It's
okay.
Right? So the guy said, I want to pay you extra. I said, well,
Oh, I'm paying hard to get.
No. I was
he thought you were.
Yeah, he thought I was paying hard to get. I was actually frightened as hell. And I thought, okay, there's no way. I mean, I'm going to do this. Then he said, tell you what, we'll give you 1,003. Now, my head was like blank, like 1,003. Are you serious? Like, I can do stuff, right? I can like party on weekends, whatever. So I was just thinking, I said, okay, maybe this would work. He thought it was too low. So he said, okay, 1,004. In that instant, when he finished his sentence, I said, yes, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
So I got paid 1,004 at the time. So he increased my hours a little bit more to accommodate, the classes and so on. Then he stopped my tutorials.
Okay.
So I was kind of full-time lecturer, doing this econs. Right. So then I was a student by
day.
By first part of the day.
Yeah. Doing your second
late
year.
part of the day, I was like lecturer,
Lecture.
and then I go back to being student at night. So that's why when we do stuff at MoneyTree, I always tell when I work with university students or whatever it is, and they say they don't have enough time, and I'll tell you I struggle to believe this, because I don't think what I did was super special. I think if you really wanted to do it, you could do it. And I know of people who've done a lot more than what I'm saying right now, right? I think the message here is that if you really want to do something, you'd make the time to do it.
Yeah.
That's really the thing. So when I left university, I decided, okay, maybe the teaching thing is not for me, because I was still teaching all the way through, right? So when I left, I'm with double qualification. I managed to get that at least, right? I decided, okay, I want to work in advertising. And the reason was I had an uncle who was in advertising. The job sounded really exciting.
Right.
You get to meet models, or so it seemed, or whatever. So I thought, okay, that's cool. And you get to learn about business, because in advertising, you learn about other people's business.
Yeah.
So what I did immediately was I joined an ad agency straight out after university. And because it was a small agency, I got to learn a whole lot of stuff, right? I got to learn what the entire process was. And those days, there's far more processes than today, because, well, it was more manual than today. Today, everything's automated. So I learned that all out. I think I stayed with them for maybe about maximum 8 months, 9 months.
Okay. Really
The
quick.
reason was, again, so my life has been a bit colorful. In between that, when I left university and started the ad agency job, I got roped into what is now termed as a get-rich-quick scheme. Right?
Okay.
And it so happened it worked out for me.
Right.
So it worked out for me, right? So I managed to at that time, that was real big money then. I remember getting monthly about at that time, I was 21 years old, about $7,000 a month.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy money. And
Before the pyramid collapsed, lah. So you.
So you know what year, and you know my age if you do a bit of research. That was the year. At the end of that year, they came up with a new modification to the multi-level act,
marketing.
right? Where they changed it, and they prohibited front loading, where you can't pay a lot of money just to enter. They had all those rules. So the thing died. I mean, I had 1 year run of it, right? So when I was in the ad agency, which, I mean, that's why sometimes early money spoils your brain a little bit. I knew I was making more than my manager.
Yeah.
He didn't know it. Of course, I knew it, right? So I was very gung-ho, as in, whatever it is, I wasn't afraid to fail in the job.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's okay.
I can quit.
Yeah, I can quit. Yeah, which was a bad attitude, but it served me quite well. So what happened was the boss at the time, the guy who owned the place, he saw that business wasn't really picking up. So he decided to come into every sales meeting, and he would give us, there were a few of us, give us a warning, right? So one day he gave us this ultimatum. He said, guys, if you don't hit your 3-month target, I'm going to give you 3 months target right now. If you don't hit that target, you might as well resign, otherwise I'm going to fire you. Right? Now, you're talking to a guy who was young and who said, well, I don't really need this job, but okay. So everyone was quite scared of this guy because he is really intimidating. But armed with the fact that I could resign, so I asked him, I said, Mr. So-and-so, and if I hit the target in 3 months, what happens? He says, you get to keep the job. I said, it doesn't sound right to me. I said, I don't hit it, you kick me out. And I hit it, I keep the job. What if I beat it, right? He said, you got to keep your job. I said, it doesn't sound right to me. If I beat this, isn't there a reward? If I don't get it, I lose something. I lose the job. He said, what do you want? I said, okay, so if I don't get it, I lose my job. If I really do high enough, I want his job. I was pointing at my manager. So he said, you're too young to get his job. You don't have the experience, okay? You know what it takes. I said, okay, if that's the case, if I hit my target before 3 months is up, does that mean I don't have to come to work for the rest of the 3 months? He said, okay. I said, okay, deal. But you're the first guy every week. I'm going to ask for a report, and you're the first guy I'll fire if you don't. Hit the target. I said, okay,
Fair
fine.
enough.
Fine, easy deal, right?
Wow, that cocky bastard.
You see, yes, for a simple reason, because you. It was like that because I was gotta better admit this, because you know that you were getting that income even without the job.
Yeah.
My job in the agency, I was getting 1,600. Okay,
Yeah.
you're getting 7,000+ outside.
Yeah.
You-
But actually, at that stage, why did you even bother joining the advertising company?
I wanted to learn.
I see.
I
Okay.
wanted to learn.
Right.
It was an industry I wanted to learn.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So the
So-
the purpose was different. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to learn. Right. So what happened was
Mm.
I decided at that time there's Compass Buku Merah. I don't know if you remember this. Compass Buku Merah was the high-end version of Yellow Pages.
Right.
It had all the information of all the companies inside.
Mm.
Okay. Paid Up Capital, who's the CEO, business, products, brands. It had everything. Contact numbers, fax numbers. Those days you had fax, right? I went to go buy this Compass Buku Merah,
Mm.
okay, and said, before this 3 months is up, I'm going to do my best to call everyone from A to Z because I'm hitting this target, I'm beating this target, and whatever, right? Okay. So what happened was, first month I crashed. I mean, my results was horrendous. It's like stupid result. The guy was screwing me up. I said, okay. Second month, by divine intervention or whatever you may call it, so I got this guy. My target was 500,000. That's what he gave me. You got to do 500,000, which was quite high at the time. Okay.
Mm.
So this one single client was going to spend more than 500,000.
Right.
I landed it. Okay. And I was heck determined. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get your contract because next month I ain't coming to office.
Yeah.
Right. So the guy said, okay, after some presentation, he said, okay, I think we can go with you, Michael. I said, okay, listen, I need you to give me some form of like a purchase order so that I can go back. And the guy said, okay, we'll give you this a letter to tell you that we appoint you.
Yeah.
I brought the letter of appointment back. The guy says it's not good enough. It's rubbish. You don't have anything, my boss. You don't have anything. What's this? This is an appointment letter. How do I know how much he's going to spend? Whatever. He says this, right?
Mm.
Get me an agreement and I'll buy it. I said, done. So I go to one of the secretaries. I said, can you give me a copy of the previous agreements we have, right? So he gave, so what you do is you blanco all the stuff and you reproduce. I told the client, I said, look, I need your help. I don't get my commission until I bring back an agreement.
Yeah.
The guy said, can I read the agreement? So he read. He said, okay, leave this with me, come back tomorrow. Long story short, the guy signs it. Okay. I bring it back to my boss. The guy said, so what? I said, what do you mean, so what? That's an agreement. So I said, I don't have to come to work tomorrow onwards until the end of the third month. He said, that's not happening. I said, what do you mean that's not happening? That's the deal. So he said, that's not happening. Go back and sit down. That's not happening. So I go back and I do nothing. I'm talking about I do nothing but call this client. Nothing else, right? I really do nothing else. I don't type nothing. I don't do nothing. I'm just sitting there and I'm looking at my computer screen. And there's some stupid games that they used to have those days, nothing exciting. It was the day where internet wasn't even up yet.
Yeah.
So you played some rubbish games and he'd be seeing me every day. So after 3 days, he got tired. He called me in the room. He said, listen, I can't have you doing this. I said, but that's the deal. He said, if that's the case, then you resign right now. I said, okay, with pleasure. I said, I'll go and type my letter now. So I dropped the letter and I resigned. The client ended up not being the client anymore because I was the one who nursed the deal and the client ended up, okay. When that happened...
So that was the 8 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
When that happened, then I decided, hey, I got enough buffer anyway, right? I got savings, So I called a friend of mine from school who's also in advertising. We set up an ad agency, right? First year was rubbish. Second year was semi-rubbish. And then third year, after trying, we seem to have latched on to something. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward this part. So in advertising, we managed to get some serious clients, and then I started a 3D animation studio. The year was in 1996 when 3D animation was just about to start. And what's interesting about this was I went diving, and I met this guy who still remains the richest friend I have, right?
Okay.
I met him in the dive trip. The guy's a British national. He was a listed head of a listed co in Singapore. And when, it was a live on board dive trip. So you live on the boat for a week and then you just dive, eat,
And this is
dive,
like somebody
eat,
you
dive.
met first time lah.
First time. I don't know this guy. We were on the same boat, right? So occasionally you'd stop on the island, So what happened was, I decided to buy him a drink. He bought me a drink. We started talking, and he said, "What do you do?" And I asked him what I did, and then he started asking, "What is it you want to do?" Right? I said, "I want to start a 3D animation studio." He said, "Why?" Now, incidentally, he's very interested in 3D animation, right? Passion, and that was just the start of 3D. And he said, "Why?" I said, "That's the future. That's what's going to happen in the ad industry." I said, "If I want to go and make a TV commercial 3D, I'd pay several $100,000 just for a 30-second do." I said, me as the agency, before I even charged the client, right?
Yeah.
I said, and if I had that stuff, I said, it's going to be easy money. I didn't know he was interviewing me. I thought he was just asking questions. So this guy is asking. And then on the last day when we finished the trip and we went back on land, he said, "Hey, listen, let's have dinner." So this guy stays out in Bangsawel. He's no longer in Malaysia. He's overseas now. So he said, let's have dinner. Let's talk business. And I said, well, okay, nothing to lose. So I picked this guy up from Bangsa. We had dinner, and over dinner, he said, "Listen, let's start this 3D animation. Okay? You come up with money, I come up with money. We'll meet halfway, 50-50. I got some equipment. You can use my equipment. And let's just try this." And he was so determined that he had found out where to get the software. At that time, we used, when Maya was launched. Today, Maya is like common, but we used Maya. We were one of the first 3 to actually bring Maya in at the time, because he brought it in.
Yeah.
And we heard that Astro and another company called Fat Lizard had brought it in, right? And we brought that in, and then we were running off now defunct company Silicon Graphics. Machines.
Yeah.
If you look up Silicon Graphics,
that, yeah.
It's like the Rolls Royce of animation at the time. And we ran on very high end Macs. I remember the machine being Mac 996, stuff like that. Souped up RAM and the works. To be very certain that this business would work, I went to pitch to my client at the time, Jotun Paints, who had agreed that they would do a 3D animation ad for the first time ever. So before we even got the machine warmed up and the software warmed up for the 3D animation company, we were already building them a few $100,000 for this 3D animation ad, which paid for all the equipment.
Nice.
In the first deal. Yeah. So as things would have it, we had a good run. Then came the Asian crisis 1998, which practically knocked the wind out of our sail, knocked us down to our knees, really hard hit. Bad period.
So basically, there's no customers and the clients were not doing any.
Well, the worst part was in advertising, you carry a lot of credit. You give credit terms to clients, right? So you give them, if you give them 30 days, essentially they're going to pay you in like 90 days. Normal. Huh? You give 60 days, you get 120, you get 180. So if you look at your aging accounts, it's pretentiously nice because you see some big fat figure of people owing you money.
But receivables ain't there.
Yeah. Time to get that, you cough blood. So what happened in 98 was the guys who wanted to pay were asking you for huge discounts. Otherwise, we
can't pay.
Right?
And these are all for work done.
Yes, already done. You already invoiced them. Let's talk about the work that's done, because the work that's forthcoming was really almost not forthcoming, right? It was trickling in. So we went from a 26-man outfit down to probably 7 men, right?
Yeah.
And I think being young, I took a long time to trim that down, right? First, we did the normal thing which you hear about today. We told the guys, look, we're going to do a pay cut, but you guys have got shorter working hours. That's what we did at first. All the way to slowly, you cut. Anyway, so what happened was, that was a very bad time for us. And the lesson learned from that was that, if you get into a business, I thought to myself, if you get into a business in which an economic downturn can wipe you out, you don't have any defense, right? I mean, you're at the mercy of clients, you're at the mercy of, other people. So I thought to myself, you want to go get into a business that good day, bad day, sunshine or rain, people kind of need you.
You'll be there.
That explains the next phase of my life, right? So I thought there's two, education or health. These are the only two industries people don't negotiate with you on price very much. And they are not adverse to paying the bill, even if it's a bit high, even if it's a premium on it, they're not adverse to it. They want it, right? I mean, it's a good example, right? If you take education right now, if you have kids of your own, you understand this. You won't tell your kid not to go to school if you don't have enough money in your pocket. That would be the last option ever. The kid goes to school anyway. If I have to eat less, whatever less, I do it. But the kid's going to school.
You don't sacrifice that.
Right?
Yeah.
And you also probably know that, I mean, during my time when I was growing up and it was time for us to go to university, you hear of parents taking second mortgages, right, on the house to send the kids.
Yeah.
So I knew that was an area that nobody would compromise on, right? Okay, so education is safe. Same as health, right? If you have an illness and they say, look, you got to do this medication, you got to do this treatment, and you look at the price tag, it's way beyond your savings or whatever, and you don't have enough insurance to cover, you're probably not going to stay away from the treatment. Worse still, if it's somebody you love.
Yeah.
Right?
You find the money.
You find the money.
Yeah, you do.
So I knew these two, if I got in it, nobody's going to argue.
Yeah.
That was my thought. Simple thought. So I said, okay, health, man, too much blood. Okay, let's not get there. So it was education. So when I looked at education, I said, okay, if you want to do a business in education, first you got to be different. I didn't want to compete with everybody else who had any kind of, I didn't want to go start a college. I thought that was really, really capital intensive, right? And that really wasn't for me. And then I thought, okay, I don't want to start some private school thing. I know nothing much about it. Too tough. I thought, okay, the money is in something like tuition. But I said, look, a dime a dozen out there, tuition centers. You start one. I didn't know how to brand it in such a way that I could charge a premium. So I've got foreign partners. At that time, I had foreign partners in the business I had invested in at that time. And we always would go to Hong Kong to split our profit. We had set up, because the business is out in Europe, right? And for tax purposes, it was cheaper to house the HQ in Hong Kong.
Right.
Shift. Okay,
this is for the ad agency.
No. The ad agency was sold off in 2002.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was sold off for Song because I packaged the 3D animation studio and everything went with it, right? Because we were already like half past dead kind of thing. Because ad agencies you had a lot of freelance units coming up.
Yeah.
Those were the days. And 3D animation, which was super lucrative because you can charge real big time premium. We're talking about in 1996, if I did for you a 15-20 second fly-in logo, it could be Etika, Maybank, dissolve into water or just fly in whatever. For 20-30 seconds, I would charge you anything between 12 to 20,000 for that clip. That logo clip, okay? Fast forward to 2002, when all the art colleges were coming out, all the ones that you hear about today. These graduates were all armed with 3D animation knowledge, right? They know. And you could easily get a pirated version of the software that we paid.
Yeah.
Now, we paid... We easily paid, because we got the software from the US and from Singapore at the time, we easily paid a high double-digit thousand ringgit for these software. And these guys were getting it for $15. You never want to fight them.
Yeah.
And that same thing that I could have charged you, $15,000, that the flying logo, they were charging $600, $800. Because to them it doesn't take long. I get the 800, I live, and I move on, and I keep going, right? And I keep churning. So I saw that as, okay, I told my partner, I said, this is not working. We keep doing this. We're just going to bleed ourselves to death. So that ended. That chapter ended, right? So I was thinking for a while. I said, what do we do? And so I invested in this company in Europe. I've got some European friends. And we set up the base in Hong Kong. This is a trading company.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
As an import-export, right?
Right.
So what they were cleverly doing, they had this idea, if we can export out from Asia and send it to Europe, specific stuff, they can make a clean cut from this, right?
Yeah.
I thought, okay, so the country was Poland, and I saw, okay, Poland just came out of communism at that time, big time opportunity. So I took the jump, and we would split our profits in Hong Kong. Now, one day in Hong Kong, let's put this in a politically correct way so that people don't get the wrong idea. When I was a little bit too happy after I consumed some form
Some
of liquids,
beverages.
some beverages. There were 4 of us. 3 of us, I think, consumed more than what the body would want us to do. One guy decided that he would not, and he decided to just stay sober.
Right.
Okay. So we were talking loosely, and I told the guys in my very
In your happy state.
in a enlightened state, I said, "Hey guys, this is boring stuff, this trading thing, because all you do is you move documents, right? You move LCs, it's document, right? It's BL, LCs, you just move stuff." And I said, "Hey guys, it's really boring stuff. I think I want to be a silent partner. I don't want to be active in this." So they said, "What do you want to do?" I said, now the next day I don't remember what I said. Okay, allegedly I said all this, right? I said, let's get into education or health, because this is a good day, good business, bad day, good day, still good. They say like what? I said, hey, why don't we start an education business that everybody wants? So they say, what do people want? I said, people want money. Maybe we can teach them how to get money, or teach them how to, keep money or manage something about money, because people are talking about money. And remember, I just came up from 1998 crisis. You know that the importance of money, the value of having savings and stuff. Now, being Europeans, they are not money go-getting type, as you know. Europeans are quite laid back when it comes to money. They don't like to work overtime because there's this work-life balance stuff, right? So they said, really? You think that's going to be good? I said, yeah. They said, okay, doesn't matter. You go research this. If you think it's good, we'll jump in. As it works out, when I researched the whole thing, they didn't really think it was a great idea. But I had already gone in so deep with it, right? So when all I knew was this, then everything that I knew from my life, I always believed that every problem that you face, if you believed in a divine power, right, something greater than you, that divine power, some people call it God, okay? So if you believe that it's a divine power, you must believe that the divine power already gave you the solution before you met the problem. Which is what I always tell people. God would have given you the solution before you met the problem. And that's what I've always believed throughout my life. So every time I see a problem, I look back into my life, retrospectively.
To your experiences.
Right? And say, what did I miss? Right? So when I was looking at this education bit for the company that eventually became MoneyTree, I said, I got to look for what I know. And what I knew was this. Now, you go back. I taught at one time. You remember?
Yeah.
I was teaching in this college. And when I was teaching in this college, the way to excite the kids was I always told stories. I made up for the lack of content that I had with stories, like fillers. So I said, okay, people learn through stories. So maybe that's what we got to do. So I said, okay, let's do that. So I wanted the company to teach kids about money, and we got to make story the main way which we will deliver that.
Why did it lend to teaching kids?
Because another thing I learned from advertising, see, again, we're looking retrospectively. It's very difficult to change somebody's mind about something the moment it's preset. And a simple example, right? If you go back to when you and I, were like teenagers or in our early 20s, right? There was a Coke and Pepsi war, right? And if you stood for Coke, it's almost certain you would be reluctant to drink a Pepsi outside.
Yeah.
And if you thought Pepsi was better or sweeter or whatever, you'd be, that's the first choice, you'd be reluctant to switch to Coke. Same with toothpaste, same with every other thing. And it's the same with cars that people buy today. If you go up the bracket, it's the same with cars, it's the same with laptops and stuff, phones, everything, right? If you have a brand in your head that you think this is it for you, then the only other thing you would allow in your mind for that same product type is a perfect substitute. In other words, if you thought like a toothpaste brand like Colgate was it, and you and I went to the beach today, right? And we forgot to bring our toothpaste, and we go to buy, and we go to the shop, and we ask the guy, do you have Colgate? The guy says no. What we're going to automatically do is ask him for the next perfect substitute in our brain. That's what we're going to do. So in every product category, you really have
Your
champion
default,
product, and then perfect substitute. That was how it was, right? So I knew that it was really tough to train adults on what they already have as preset principles or things that we believe we know. We believe we know, if there's such a thing, about money.
Yeah.
But kids, it's virgin territory. If you spoke to a kid, the kid doesn't have an opinion about something, it just go right through.
Yeah.
So you're talking about really easy to convince. That, incidentally, was what I learned in advertising. It's far easier to convince a kid to run into McDonald's than it is for the parent to run into McDonald's.
Yeah.
So what you do is you get the kid to
You
run in,
focus on the kids, yeah.
and then the parent has to follow the kid, right? So these are things I learned along the way. So when I look back, I say, okay, so kids is the target. And here's the other thing, Amran. If I were to ask you how much you would pay for yourself, let's say, to do something or to learn something, versus how much you would pay for your kid, you'd be more willing to pay a lot more for your child, and you pay much faster than you do for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because the priority is I got to get my kid educated
Yeah.
and stuff. So I knew that if I want to take that $1 from your pocket, I got to take it through your kid. Actually, I shouldn't be saying this on this body, but that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So it had to be kids, and we knew that. So then moving forward, I thought, okay, it's got to be engaging. The kids got to feel that they're having fun, and it can't be that they feel that they're sitting in class to have to learn something.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if we wanted to do this, let's break all the normal conventions of a classroom education, right? Let's break it. The teacher doesn't have to be in control. So if you go to a MoneyTree classroom, the teacher is not fully in control. The kids kind of run the class, the teacher facilitates it.
Right.
Okay. I say that I went into, I think I visited 12 to 15 countries where I went into the classrooms. Okay. Or I observed from outside, right? I wanted to see the failure of classroom model. And I focused mainly on Asia. But I did go to the US and entered the classroom in the US, right? Yeah. And I wanted to see the difference. Okay. Except for maybe a country like Singapore, which is slightly different. Most Asian countries, when I was doing this research, kids were embarrassed or felt too small when a teacher asked them questions. So much so that, in school what you did was, if you don't maintain eye contact with the teacher, chances are the teacher won't ask you. Right?
Yeah.
You hope you escape, right? Or you try and hide behind a bigger kid so that the teacher don't see you. That kind of stuff. I wanted to know why. And the reason was very easy. When I asked every kid, the kid said, look, if I answer the question wrong, I get scolded or I get to go out of class if I try to be too smart or funny. If I get it right, no prize. So no upside, only downside.
Yeah.
So why bother, right? Interesting. So I said, okay. And I believe that our kids, as in Asian kids, are not less bright than the American kids, which I saw were answering questions. In the US, it almost seemed like the kid felt they had the right to answer your question.
Yeah.
You have to listen to my answer, right? So I said, let's change this. So in MoneyTree class, I created the rule, no wrong answers.
Okay.
Only complete or incomplete answer. So if I asked you, Amran, what is inflation? And you say inflation is a box of chocolates, that's an incomplete answer, Amran. That's not an incorrect answer. That's not a wrong answer. And that difference is, when you say somebody is wrong, the child shuts down and says, I failed.
Yeah.
When you say it's not complete, the child says, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Simple play, okay? And to motivate the children to want to go further, we offered MoneyTree dollars in class every time you answered.
A complete answer.
As long as you answer, the better you answer, the more money you're going to get, right? And I said, I want kids to fight to answer. So the more money is given to you as you get the better answers, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do with the money? I want kids to be motivated and want to manage their own money. At the end of every month or every term, we have an auction. And we put up for auction anything from movie tickets all the way to handphones.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now you can imagine my classroom. So the kids were fighting to answer, right? And I knew that teachers would not be able to control this.
Okay.
You can imagine if everyone's shouting to try and answer, it'd be boisterous,
and
right?
kids are kids, right?
And kids are kids. And I didn't want to kill the spirit of the kid, right? So what we then did was we said, okay, let's have a self-managed class. So we then created jobs in the classroom. So you are assistant teacher, you are banker. Banker gives out and counts money. Assistant teacher passes out things. So everybody's got a job.
Yeah.
So the teacher merely facilitates that mini economy that runs in class. So we started that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we did that, I did a few tests in Malaysia and Singapore. The thing that was quite a breakthrough was the Singapore government thought that this was something good for schools.
So at that point, you were doing it as a private classes for parents to send their kids to.
This private. Then we started. We set up the company MoneyTree in Malaysia and Singapore, and so I said let's try this out and see. We knew we had to get some recognition from government or whatever. That year was 2009, right? And in somewhere along 2010, Singapore, Ministry of Education Singapore said, okay, you can go into schools, right? But Singapore has a bidding system, a very interesting bidding system. Schools would put out all the types of education they want, and you would tender for it. So you as a qualified vendor, deemed qualified by means that you have gone through, the due process, you get an ID and a password to get onto the system.
Oh, to bid.
To bid.
All right.
Okay. So it's transparent. Okay. Whoever wins, everybody knows how this guy won, what he's offering, what price. Everything is like quite naked. For some reason, when we got on there, schools in Singapore felt this was like an interesting thing. And so schools started taking it up. And at that time, a government agency by the name of Spring Singapore, which today is known as International Enterprise Singapore. Spring Singapore gave us a contract, a subsidy for schools. They'll pay 50% of the way, and the schools only have to pay 50%.
Wow.
In Singapore, although you're a government school, you're given a budget, and headmaster can, decide on how that budget is to be used and submits a report, something like that. So they've got quite a lot of autonomy in how they want to spend this, right? So suddenly we found ourselves in Singapore doing 140 over schools out of the close to 320 schools.
Wow.
Right?
Just under half, yeah.
Yeah. That was a major breakthrough. At the same time, Ministry of Education in Malaysia called us in and, asked us, what is this we're doing? The normal due process that we had to answer questions. And there was a lady in MOE who's really very good, MOE Malaysia was really very good and said, let me see these classes in action. And she saw it. And
how big was the classes typically?
Typical classroom size. In other words, we're doing it in school.
Okay.
We're not doing outside school. We're going in school to do it in school,
yeah.
right? So what happened was they sent people to look at this, and then I'll fast forward a little bit. Suddenly, we get a letter from Kementerian that said that, okay, tiada halangan, you can go into any school. Big move. Okay. At that same time, we started working with Maybank.
Right.
Okay. So we got to work with Maybank on a project that's still we're still with Maybank today. Maybank remains our favorite partner since I'm in the Maybank building. Maybank remains our favorite partner.
Thank you.
So what has happened was really, honestly, it's really our favorite partner. So what happened was at that time, under now it's Tan Sri Wahid. At that time it was Datuk Sri Wahid. He said, look, if we work with you, we want to go into schools, and we have a simple objective. Besides educating the kids on financial literacy, can we introduce the Maybank brand name to kids? Which we did, right? So what we did was, if you remember, I told you that we have auctions, the money that you win. Okay, so now here we are going to the classroom and say, at the start of the school year, we say, okay, listen here. At the end of the month or at the end of the term, we're going to have an auction. Maybank has graciously sponsored, 5 PlayStations. If you're a Maybank account holder by the end of the term, to show your Maybank book, your passbook, you get to bid for the PlayStation. But if you don't worry, you can still bid for the movie tickets.
Right.
So needless to say, more than 97% of the kids were Maybank account holders.
Yeah, bug their parents to go, hey, open an account
That's
first.
right.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So we did that, and then came a big project that we did with Maybank, which till today we're still doing. And that project is an animated series called Cashville Kids. So Cashville Kids is an animated series that evolves around 4 characters in a town called Cashville. And these kids will go through different situations. It's all 6-minute stories, and they will go through situations, and then there will be a learning from the experience within that story. So we supplied workbooks for kids, handbooks for teachers, training for teachers how to use our tools, how to use the cartoon, etc. In the first year, we did that with Astro. And then it became really quite expensive, to be on media. So we decided, let's not do this. So we supplied, and some schools didn't have Astro. So we started supplying DVDs,
Right.
and pen drives that you can load and you can do it. And that year was 2013. Till today, 2020, we now have this Casual Kids program in 6 countries with Maybank, right? So we're in Malaysia, we're in Singapore, we're in Philippines, we're in Cambodia, we're in Myanmar and Indonesia, right? And it's all translated to local language. Now, this same animation series won Maybank 3 awards, international awards, for innovation in, education, for community building and so forth, right? So when we did that, okay, so we said we want to push the agenda a lot further. See, secretly, what I want to do is I want to be able to measure and profile kids. What did you learn from me? How much did you use of what I taught you? I want to measure that so I can give you, the parent, a report to say, watch this change in your kid, right?
So typically for a child, how many years do they go through the syllabus with MoneyTree?
So MoneyTree, we've got 9 levels right now.
Okay.
It depends on the school. This we don't have control because we work with schools. So it could be 1 term, 1 level. It could be 1 year, 1 level. The school decides. We don't have a control over this, right? The school really fits this into the schedule. But we have 9 levels. So we have 1 level where it addresses kids 6 to 9, then 10 to 13, then 14 upwards, right? So I wanted to measure this. So what happened later on was, when we first met you, Arman, the dream was to go online and use tech to help us gather data, probably put in elements of AI into tracking and stuff, right? That was the big dream. So today, what we have is MoneyTree has created our own student engagement system. It comprises a student management system. If you know what that is, it registers kids and it helps schools to schedule and all that. We did that to help the school schedule MoneyTree classes.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you look a little bit beyond, you say, if I can schedule MoneyTree classes, why can't I schedule all the other classes?
All classes, yeah.
The answer is you can. Okay. And then we had
But it's a good entry point.
It is a great entry point. And then we had an in-class tool called the Sandbox that helps teachers automatically give points to kids, get the latest data from us real time if needed, gamify the whole lesson, stop, go, play, bring in movies, anything to make that learning experience a lot richer. And the teacher, to be trained to use that, we only need about 1.5 hours and the teacher is done. You just can run a class. So Amran has never taught finance before. Amran has never taught MoneyTree before. Give me 90 minutes of your time, I can get you up and going. Okay? It's a lot of idiots guy. But the important part is that the teacher can give points, money to the kids. So your question is, where do those points go?
Yeah.
So we created an app called, it's a digital bank app. We call it Dumo. So what Dumo does is, it's like a digital bank account. When your teacher gives you money in class, it goes into your bank account.
Right.
Now you go home, you can see your balance. You can bid in an auction. You can do homework activities and earn more money. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we built the whole ecosystem and we push that into schools, right? So in Malaysia now we've got a few schools. We just launched it. Well, fortunately for us, we launched it in November last year.
Okay.
Right?
Before all the lockdown, yeah.
Yeah. So we did that, and during the COVID, many people were asking for it because it's a gamified engagement platform. Okay. So what happened was, we did it in Malaysia, we did it in Cambodia. These were the 2 countries that we tried it out and it worked. So now, during the lockdown, and some countries are still under lockdown, so we're launching this in the Philippines and Indonesia. Within the next 2 months, we should go there. We are glad to have just stepped into China just 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
We signed an agreement with a partner in China, and we anticipate the rollout in August.
To follow the same path of going to schools.
Always the same. Because that's where you got kept. It's a captured audience, right? I mean, you got students right there. So that's where MoneyTree is right now. So if you look at it, as an overview, it's the education that I felt that kids needed. Also, you also learn along the way. You don't want to challenge the normal convention, because I cannot say that financial literacy is the most important subject that a kid should learn. then you as a father would say, but Michael, look, my kid still needs a degree.
Hmm.
So you are still falling back on the old school of the kid needs a degree, so academically they have to do well.
Yeah.
So what we then did, that's why we did what we did, which is we built a platform to enable all other subjects to be taught. That means you can port it onto our platform.
Hmm.
You can manage it from within my platform. And there's a template to help you gamify maths or English, whatever you're teaching.
Hmm.
And you can then give out the MoneyTree points, the MoneyTree dollars, from within any subject.
Right.
And
Not
it goes-
just your course, yeah.
And it goes into the kid's digital bank account.
Hmm.
And the kid can do homework on not just MoneyTree homework, can do maths homework, can do English homework, or whatever, and earn those points. Do revision questions,
Yeah.
watch specific videos, do whatever they want only for the sole purpose of earning more money, so that I can go beat the next kid in the auction, or I can challenge the kid on a 1-to-1 challenge.
Right. You have that.
We're launching this in July, a one-on-one head-on, right? So I want to challenge Amran because I want to go win some of the stuff you have, right? So yeah, so we gamified the whole experience. So now, as we go out into schools, the proposition is, look, I know you've got this academic stuff,
Hmm.
and schools are facing a big challenge right now. You read about it all the time. They say online is not working. During the MCO, one of the biggest discoveries they had is that you cannot teach a kid online and expect the kid to just watch the screen and be attentive.
Hmm.
See, if you and I were watching a screen right now, right? Let's say you're my teacher, okay? So I see your face and you see my face, like Zoom, right?
Yeah.
But do you really know what I'm looking at? No, you don't.
You don't. Yeah.
The camera's on. That part you know.
Could be a YouTube screen in front of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anything. Game, YouTube, whatever. You never know, right? So they found out that they don't have this real captured attention of the kid.
Yeah.
And that's normal. Which kid is going to sit in front of a screen and just stay there and then nothing's happening? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The moment you put a kid in front of a screen or screen in front of a kid, they're going to explore. So what we want to do is this. Inside hours, they've got a lot of stuff that they got to pay attention now in class because they want to get the rewards.
Make
So
it interactive, lah.
Interactive and more. It's reward based. So you as a teacher, you have the tools and the ability to go incentivize the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we did.
So if we go back a little bit to the beginning, right, of MoneyTree, in terms of the content itself, right? So how did that evolve in terms of knowing what are the kind of topics that you want to teach at a certain level? How did that evolve?
Okay, so we had consulted with many people. We were lucky to have good people in Singapore, as in people that we were in touch with, people from the National Institute of Education in Singapore that train teachers, content developers. It was very easy to get the academic side. In other words, if you want to know what to teach a 15-year-old in terms of money, right? Whether it be from banking products to insurance products to whatever, that syllabus is pretty standard. No magic there.
I see.
Okay, because all you have to say is, "Hey, Mike, why don't you add in a cryptocurrency?" And I just put that in there. You say, "Hey, Mike, why don't you talk about identity theft? Now it's happening. I put it in there. Why do you talk about phishing?" See, so the content is always evolving, and it's not the biggest challenge you have. Okay, that you can actually pick up. There are texts written about it. You can go ask experts academic guys who have it, right? The real secret sauce is, how do you make it simple enough that a kid wants to pick it up, interesting enough that the kid wants to stay on, engaging enough that the kid feels that it's something they would be interested in for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
That's tough. If you want to challenge yourself, go sit down and talk to your kid about insurance. I'll time you. It's not going to stay very long, right? Because okay, Dad, thank you, okay, thank you, see you. Because it's not interesting.
Yeah.
So you got to make it in such a way that there's got to be game elements. So the child is thinking, okay, I need to get around this because I need to get there. I need to beat this guy. You want to build that in a gamified way, so that the child is motivated to want to go through it. And the secret is, it mustn't feel like you're trying to teach them something. Okay, this is how we've done it, MoneyTree. We don't want to teach a kid something. We want to give the kid an opportunity to learn it. The difference is, when I'm trying to teach you, I'm pushing it down to you. I'm
Yeah.
pushing it into you. When I give you the opportunity to learn, I'm providing the pathway for you to step forward. Very different. The difference mainly comes from when I'm pushing it to you, you don't have a choice. I'm shoving it straight at you, right? You don't have a choice. You feel pressure because it's coming right at you. And it's not on your terms, it's on my terms.
Yeah.
But when I give you a pathway and say, take that step. You know what? If you take this step, I'm going to throw in a sweetener here. Just take this step. Then you take that step. In your mind, that was my choice, my decision on my terms. It's a very different outcome.
But how do you entice them to do it if they don't want to?
Well,
This is almost like a parenting question now, right? So
no, it's easy. It's easy. I mean, okay, look, we do it all the time in this country, right? Hey, you get 6 A's and I go buy you some bike. You get 5 A's and then I'll go buy you this Nintendo, whatever. And the kid's not doing it because the kid loves the A. The kid doesn't love the A. It's just a passport to go get the Nintendo or to get the bike, right? So the kid sees it that way. Now,
but surely in a room of 40, not all 40 of them will have that same response to it.
Okay, really good question. You see, the thing is you have to appreciate that we're not all motivated by the same things. Definitely not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So in MoneyTree, on our app, there's an entire catalog of stuff that you can choose that you want to get.
Right.
So I don't want to decide for you that, okay, you must get a drone. Then this young girl sitting there saying, I don't want this stupid drone. I don't want to fly this thing, right? And all she wants might be something simple, a book, whatever it may be, right? Which that boy who wants a drone would not come 5 feet near that book, right? So you want to be able to give them that flexibility. So we needed to break that, out. We didn't want to break out from our version 1.0. Version 1.0 MoneyTree is whatever I put for auction up there, that's all there is for auction.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I cannot bring the whole supermarket into the classroom. Okay. But I can bring the whole entire mall into an app. And then I say to you, Amran, you 12-year-old boy, right? Amran, what do you want? What do you want to bid for? You look through the whole mall and say, I want this. I say, okay, I don't care. You want that? Yeah, okay. Just press that, put that on your wish list. That's the next thing you're going to win. If you win. So now you're playing against yourself.
Right. And that's a capability that MoneyTree has now.
Yes,
Pretty
now,
much a
right
whole
now.
bunch of stuff that
Right now.
the kids want.
Yeah, so we've moved up the game to that level. So right now, a lot of customization, besides the fact that it's available in 5 different languages now, we've also got this ability to now gauge and allow kids, right? What do you want, right? So we've also got a profiling tool based on kids' activities, response, some series of assessments. We get to give parents a report, a profile on specific traits, right? According to a psychological profiling test that was financial profiling test that we got from Singapore. We are able to profile the child and tell you where are their inherent weaknesses when it comes to managing money. Right? So you as a parent know. I mean, if okay, you have more than you got kids?
I got 3 kids.
Wow, perfect. Okay, good example. So you got 3 kids and then you look at them, you study them, you say, oh man, did all these 3 come from the same father and mother? You know what I'm saying, right? They're different.
They're different, yeah.
Right. And so even though they come from the same family, they're different. Okay. Now, this is because it's all, if you just judge them on money, especially, this is all because you say, no, because my son is like this, he behaves like this, or he thinks this way, or my daughter's like this, he behaves. But there is this character trait that they measured, specific character traits. If it's not present inside your DNA or your makeup, personality makeup, you tend to overlook certain things about finance. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Okay. So, for example, let's take a very easy one. There is one of the measurements that we do, which is peer pressure defense. Okay, what this means is, if you got let's say a bunch of us, right? We all graduated. We just graduated from university 5 years ago, okay?
Okay.
And we're supposed to meet down at, say, Starbucks, Bangsa, whatever. And we meet up there in BSC, okay? And we meet up there. And then I came slightly late, and all 4 of you are already there. And he says, so Mike, where do you park? I said, I don't have a car. I grabbed here. He said, serious? But where did you park your car? I said, I don't have a car. You say, you're crazy. You don't have a car. You're 5 years. You graduated. You don't have a car. And all of you start talking about how ridiculous it is that I don't have a car. Maybe my career is not working out, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then I feel this pressure from 4 of you. What do I do when I get home? I look up a car that I would buy. with money I may not have.
Yeah.
Right? Just to impress friends that I may not meet so often. Excuse me. And that's peer pressure defense. I don't have the defense. So one of the things excuse me. One of the things that we do is we train kids on delayed gratification so they can see a long-term view of what they really want to do. And from there, we keep measuring. Excuse me. Are you on plan or off the plan? And I can give you a report. Okay, your child, peer pressure defense, near zero. Now. So all the different activities and lessons and stories that child would hear would evolve around delayed gratification.
Wow. And so obviously there's all these different traits that you guys have built in to measure a child's propensity to save, to spend, risk.
Actually,
and all
it
those
works
things.
on adults, right? I mean, the original test that was designed in Singapore was meant for adults. But why it didn't work out was simply because of this. They wanted to use it for banks, so banks can profile customers, right? Okay, look. If I was going to apply for a loan, imagine now, okay, you're like some bank manager, bank officer. You give me this profiling test. You know what I'm going to do? I want to answer it the way
I think you want to.
you want to see it, so
yeah.
they give me the loan.
Yeah.
I'll game it, right?
Yeah, of course.
So it won't work. But with kids, you don't ask directly, you ask indirectly. They'll answer thinking, okay, that's I'm like this, I'm like this, and they keep going. And so you keep picking up different data points. You get a profile. So this is what we do. So now we have the ability to do profiling. We have the ability to, through the app, to measure more data points and give rewards. In a classroom, we can see which activity specifically gets more engagement and which gets less.
What's their interest?
And we can skew that.
Wow.
So that's where it's gone to. So we've got requests, of course, from banks in certain countries where they want to work with us on our digital bank for kids and say, hey, can you make your interface look like our bank app,
whatever,
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you want that because if the kids keep playing with it, naturally they're comfortable. Which bank account do you think they're going to open, right?
Yeah.
So these are opportunities that have come up now.
Okay. So actually, I guess coming up to the end is to now figure out, or to understand, so where do you see yourself moving? Right? Sounds like you've landed on this, which is the longest period of your career so far, sounds like, right? So you've probably found that niche and that passion. So where next for Michael and where next for MoneyTree?
Oh, for Michael, hopefully, I think I've come to a point in my life where, you want to, I won't say slow down, but I think you want to change directions a little bit. I think you want to be more settled. You want to experience life a little bit more. I mean, I always see it that we work too much. The modern person spends too much time engaged in work activities. I think we're chasing goals that we think are ours, which we have been indoctrinated to believe are ours. But if we actually set somewhere quiet, and I mean away, and I don't mean for an hour or two, I mean for weeks, right? And you look back at it, you find that a lot of things that you have, that you thought you wanted, and you now have, doesn't provide you with that level of satisfaction or happiness or joy or whatever you want that you thought you would get. It's like this, right? So you figured, if I stay in this particular type of house, in this particular district or neighborhood or whatever, I'd be glad because I'd be recognized that I've achieved something, right? And then you get there, and then you look around, and everyone's just normal about it. It's nothing super special. After a while, you feel it's really nothing great, but you spend 6 to 8 years of your life fighting for this one goal. And we will do it multiple times in our life, only to look back and say, this is not really what I want. So if you ask me on a personal level, it would be now, knowing what I know, I want to move forward and do the stuff that I think would make a significant impact on me, as in, generally what I think to be important to me, and hopefully important to the people I move with, whether it's family, friends, etc., and communities which I'm associated with, and all that. So through MoneyTree, I've been fortunate enough to deal with. Right now, we're in 8 countries, so I've got that fortune of being able to deal with 8 sets, if you like, of people, right? And look at things that can impact these people. So the things that we have done now allows us through MoneyTree. Let's talk through MoneyTree for a bit. So through MoneyTree, we have the ability now to go to a school that ultimately could not afford us and just deploy the system. Doesn't matter. And train the teachers. And to take them through technology, the power of technology, to experience this level of engagement, this level of advancement or progress that they would otherwise not be able to enjoy, right? And we're able to do that. Again, thankfully, working with Maybank, we have covered a few hundred schools in the region. And that already is something that I would happily boast to you about or be proud to tell you about. And, if on my dying bed, I'll think about it. This is something I think about. Say, we did impact the lives of X number of kids, right? So moving forward for me personally is to see how far you can push the envelope to do things that would matter. Right? Ultimately, if you knew your days were coming to an end, you look back and then said, that was worth the fight. That was worth the pursuit. So that's definitely one, right? For MoneyTree, it's quite simple. We've been taking on new partners, right? Whether it be individuals or companies in different parts of the world. And I think there's something really unique that we're talking to the world about, which is we've got to change the way we're teaching kids. Because kids today are engaged differently from how you and I have been engaged, right?
Yeah.
Now, we can complain about the fact that, kids are too device dependent. They're addicted to it, or whatever words you want to say. Now, by a long shot, this is not really going to change. You can force a kid to stay off a device, but the kid's going to want to be drawn back to it.
Yeah.
I think the balance has to come where we understand that this is how kids are now seeing where entertainment is, where excitement is, etc. We've got to feed them through that medium which they're using. We've got to feed them what we feel they should have as input to be able to balance it themselves. Your dad or my dad tried to tell us which friends were good for us and which weren't good for us. And until that guy did bad by us or did wrong by us, we didn't see any better or know any better.
Yeah.
Right? So
Only in hindsight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Always in hindsight. Also, our journey as human beings, you would experience things as you go along, and you would unfortunately, most of the time, you have to fall before you realize that was not for me, or that's the wrong step, right? So what I think we could do is we could just help kids, give guides, cushion certain faults, but certain faults have to happen because unless they play with fire and get burned, they won't know the danger of playing with fire.
Yeah.
And if we can control it and keep them learning within a semi-safe environment, I think we'll come to a point where human beings would start to realize that, okay, the more connected we seem through devices, the less connected we are with the human being.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's got to come through an experience. That's why in MoneyTree, we never ever tried to push everything online. We never ever tried to get all our classes to be, a kid sitting in front of a device and you learn everything. It cannot be. There's got to be interaction, either in school or in the form of you challenging or communicating with another kid. Or it's always got to be human to human, right? Never human to device, right? And I think moving forward, that's where I would move, and that's where I think MoneyTree will move. If it's still under Michael, that is, they might kick me out and put somebody else. And if so far as it's under me, that's the direction it's going to go. And on my personal side, I want to keep away from being ultra connected or ultra dependent on devices, right, in this electronic world. And I'm more aware of what we input into our minds and our bodies impact us on the long run. So I'm very conscientious about what I read, what I see, from media and stuff like that, because it's shaping the way you think.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
You just don't know it. So
And beyond the spending your precious moments on those devices, right?
Hmm?
Which you could actually spend on other things to get
Precisely.
other experiences.
Precisely. So
Mm.
one of the things that I've started doing is, whenever I visit countries,
Mm.
right, I've started taking extra time out to just go out and see
Mm.
and experience, not be a tourist, but be a traveler. You actually see the country for
Yeah.
what it is, see the people for what they do, and, you absorb that. And I think it changes your perspective on life, right? So we spoke of Cambodia a while. Cambodia is definitely one of the favorite countries for me because I think it has a lot to offer. But the part that, got me was on a Maybank project that we did. It wasn't our project, but through Maybank Foundation, Sharil took me to a village in which a family of 4 lives off in a month about $400.
A family of 4.
A family of 4
Yeah.
living off $400 for a month.
Hmm.
Right? Until you come face to face with that, you don't appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are things that, I intend to go out and open my eyes a little bit more and see the world for what it really is, and I think then you start to realize, okay, how blessed you really are, and you start being grateful for the things that you really have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's me, my friend.
That's cool, man. Anyway, thanks a lot for
My
spending
pleasure.
the time.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been definitely an interesting journey for you, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It has been.
And I think it's one of the things where I think the lessons learned, I really pick up the point of, the problems that you face. Always look back in your experiences that you must have learned something, right? That you can use to utilize to address it or to even reach out new opportunities, right?
Yep. God won't give you a problem unless He's
Yeah.
already given you the answer,
Yeah.
right?
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's. I only didn't use the word God because in case somebody is listening here say, "Are you sure there's a God?" So I said,
Let's keep it
some
neutral.
some
No, but
divine
yeah.
force, right? But if you are a believer of the book, then you know, okay, God won't give me a problem unless He's already
You can
given me a
address it.
solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a philosophy I live with. So every time you hit a brick wall, you say, okay, I got into this brick wall because I ignored a road sign.
That's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you go back and say, okay, in that road sign it said you should have turned left because.
Yeah.
Right? Then you now fix that.
Yeah. Okay, man.
That's it, my friend.
So hopefully we'll see you again, right? Maybe towards end
Let
of the
me know, I'll be
year,
happy.
and then see where
be happy,
where MoneyTree's taken you,
I'll be happy.
and the
Definitely.
adventures. Hopefully we can travel again soon.
I think they will allow us.
Yeah. Well, for Malaysia, anyways, but the other countries need to open their borders too,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing. Okay, Michael. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, man.
Okay,
Thanks
it's been
so
a
much.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.